the square to make it big. And then hit those double lines.
Hit Daniel. We're in progress. Let me call the meeting to order. Welcome to our February 4th, 2026 meeting of Lake Management Advisory Committee. Thank you all for being here, and I'll keep my eyes open to see if we get any other Zoomers coming in. In calling the meeting to order, I'd like to move right to the minutes of our last meeting. And they were provided, thank you, Phyllis, a week before. So assuming everyone's reviewed them, are there any edits, changes, additions, deletions to the minutes of January 7th, 2026? Mike did a good job taking the board. Mike did a good job. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. You did a good job. Okay. If that is the case, I will call for a motion to accept the January 7th, 2026 LMAC minutes as is. All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Greg, I missed you.
Did someone say?
You're in favor. Oh, I'm sorry. Did someone please second?
I'll second it, Mary.
Thank you, Mike. Good. All right, terrific. This is a little unusual in terms of the agenda, but being that you've all been so kind and gracious to give me the job that I'm now finding out is going to be a little time consuming. I'd like to take a few minutes and address a couple of things as we start and initiate this new team for 2026. The first thing, as you'll see, and there's quite a packet of information for us to review. And one of the packets are related to meeting ground rules. And there's a front and a back to those meeting ground rules. One is respective to our participation, and the other back page is reflected to an audience of citizens and public participation. Being this was not presented a week ago in the email of information I sent for this meeting, I'd like to all of you to take a couple of minutes. Please review them. We'll have some brief discussion. And based on that discussion, a motion to accept that as LMAC, these are the minutes. You know, I have
rules, not minutes. These are the
I mean, these are the ground rules. I'm sorry, Muffy. I'll just mention it's kind of the special sauce. We've all participated in these types of meetings. I've done it myself for years, and every meeting ground rule can be different. So this kind of lays out the expectations. So in review,
One
Phyllis?
question I have before the actual review of these, when we go through all of this, can we make sure that who we have on what committee so that we have it in the minutes and we have it on our records? Because right now, I have no idea who's on what committee anymore.
And you've made a good point. We have a starting point of that in today to be discussed. And that's where C, standing committee, special projects. So we'll get to that. So thank you for that bridge, Phyllis. So back to the meeting ground rules, as you take a look at them. I took some liberties. I had a great boss many years ago who at one point or another would say, Elmo, enough, let's move on. And if he didn't like something, he'd say parking lot, because enough, let's move on, didn't quite work, so we're putting it in the parking lot. And there will be timing opportunities, particularly if we get audience of citizens where it's not on the agenda, so theoretically, by Robert's rules, we can't address it. And we'll take that information, we'll parking lot it, but we'll certainly come back to it if it's something we believe is within our priorities and within our review. So take a minute or two to review, both the front and back. And I'll entertain an icebreaker if there are any edits to be needed.
I think I've read this, but I think it would be helpful on the audience of citizens, which is not intuitive. Everything else is just, let's be nice to each other and be efficient with our time. But the audience of citizens is a little bit different from
what I've experienced with at city town meetings, I think it's worth just summarizing the essence of what's on this page for everyone.
Relative to the meeting ground rules in terms of participation, as Muffy said, civility, respect, communication, and just living up to our 2-hour commitment when we're here once a month, every first Wednesday. If there's no changes to that, then we can just go to audience of citizens. Any changes?
I have a question, how many other boards have something like this?
Intuitively, the boards in terms of generally speaking, or to the town of Columbia.
Not in Columbia,
I can't answer that, Henry. I know.
asking.
Oh,
You're the only one. No one else has gone to that level, trying to organize. Do any of your, yeah,
Oh, no.
okay,
What is selectmen?
the board of selectmen.
well. We follow this without having,
It's not codified, it's not codified.
we haven't, yeah.
Henry, you have your response?
I don't think we need to codify it either.
Are there any other thoughts? Muffy, you asked to kind of review the audience of citizens. I actually took this from the board of selectmen. Steve Everett often refers to these in some way, shape or form. And then, Mark, actually through the town attorney said, use Robert's rules as a guideline, not necessarily have to push it through. But I think this just gives us, whether we choose to codify it or not, kind of the straight and narrow as we move forward.
I don't see any harm in it, to be honestly, I don't think it's harmful to have, and it's it's helpful to remind ourselves what the rules of engagement are when we're here, especially because time is so limited and precious. The audience of citizens, I thought it was important to point out what you pointed out to me, which is whoever is in the audience of citizens is only addressing you as a chairperson, and it's not for the rest of us to jump into that conversation, which I've seen happen a lot, because we don't know what those rules are, so I think that is important for us to understand.
That's good when we're at other meetings as well.
Exactly.
Often chair will remind the audience to address all questions.
Yeah, Steve's been very
Right.
good about that,
So
but he has to
start
do a
having
lot.
cross dialogue.
Yeah.
So
I think I was supposed to do this before we started the conversation to make a motion. Was I supposed to do that?
no, you can do whatever you like.
Well, before we discussed it, we should put a motion on the table.
Well, whether, and again, following Robert's rules, if there's a motion made and seconded, we are allowed to have further discussion. So
I move that we accept these meeting regulations.
Second.
Frank seconded, Frank Gifford. And you're specific to, the motion is specific to accepting the meeting ground rules and the audience
Yes,
citizen.
yeah.
Motion has been made, we have a second, further discussion.
I think that they're appropriate, but I don't think we need to endorse them. I think we should remain flexible and behave like other town boards and committees.
Well stated, thank you, Henry. Anyone else have thoughts or comments relative to this?
As a new member, it's helpful to see what the expectations are and the norms that are established by the commission. And to assist the chair in running the meeting, especially on the public. And it's also a hybrid meeting, right? So these rules or guidelines provide some boundaries here when we're having a conversation that includes online participation.
Thank you, Frank.
I mean, I think, personally, I think most of these are common sense and should be, civility. And we should rule, and that's what most of this is. I mean, is it bad to have it in writing? I think it's a good thing to refer to your point, you know what I mean, and all. I don't know that, or I don't know what it means if we accept these. Does that mean we follow this to the letter and what, you know?
Well, I think they're guidelines to help us move forward in terms of how we conduct ourselves and how we conduct our meetings. Um, whether we choose to codify them or not is up to the entire board.
Just a comment, Mary, I know that over the years, you can attest this too, and so can some others that are in the room. We've got off track so many times, in our discussions on something, so. Quite frankly, I think this is a good idea because it reminds us, as Jim just said, stay on track. We have a meeting, we have a time frame, and remind ourselves to do these things that'll work.
I'd like to request that I use the first Elmo. I think I've never heard that.
Let me entertain Jeff, because I want to hear from all who want to say something. If you're silent, it tends to say you have nothing to say or you agree. But one more. Jeff,
Oh, I didn't mean to stop. I was just.
I love it.
So I do like this, and I like the way it's laid out. It's laid out more of a guideline. It's not a hard and fast. There is room for interpretation for a lot of this stuff. But I also think it would be beneficial for not only the board, but also the public, predominantly if it's posted on the website, related to LMAC. So the public can see what the rules are that we're gonna be using as a guideline. So they know what to expect when there is some sort of discussion. Okay?
Communications and two-way communications is critical.
Absolutely. So if there's some way to do that with the town website that's connected with LMAC, then folks that go on to the LMAC stuff, these are the meeting guidelines, and specifically that guidelines. And, you know, it gives the board and chairperson latitude to be able to make adjustments based on the circumstance.
Jeff, thank you. If this becomes our guidelines, and if we choose to codify or not, he's gonna speak with Jen and ensure that.
Sure.
And that may be a bridge to more, what more does LMAC need to put on the Town of Columbia website? For further discussion at a later time. Bob, I see you. Hi,
Yeah,
Bob.
please. My feelings are, I think from a day-to-day basis or meeting-to-meeting basis, we're probably not going to use those rules literally. I mean, most of us are civil enough to, you know, have our day-to-day meetings done in a civil manner, but occasionally there's going to be larger issues that may come up where we have a very large audience. And those rules will enable you to manage that group very well. You can always fall back on those rules and say, look, these are the rules. This is how we're going to proceed with this meeting so that a public meeting doesn't get out of hand. So obviously all our meetings are public, but there's going to be a couple of times when we're going to have, say, 50 people in a meeting because it's going to be some contentious issue. It allows you to run that meeting in a proper way. It'll be a lot easier for you to run that meeting, I think.
Well stated. Thank you, Bob, for your thoughts.
I agree.
I'll go around the room one more time. Jen?
Yeah, and you know, I was just joking, obviously, a minute ago, but I do think, well, you know, again, regardless whether we accept this as, you know, by Joe, you know, whatever, or we just use it as a rule of thumb. You know, I mean, I think we should be able to, and we should all hopefully know that, you know, like if somebody calls Elmo, to me, that's more like a 5-minute warning type thing, because you know, people have to finish what they're saying.
Sure.
And then there might be a response to it, you know what I mean? And I would hope that it gets to a point where people don't get, you know, upset or, you know, self-conscious about it because somebody calls that, I'm using that as an example, calls Elmo on them in the middle of their discussion, you know what I mean? I don't think it means that. I think it means more of a, okay, you know, we really should continue this later type thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully everybody understands that. Same with this 3 before me rule. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're answering questions and that obviously that doesn't pertain in those situations.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like I said, a lot of it's common sense, but it's nice to see it too, so.
Thank you, Jim. Well stated. I'm going to call the question. The motion on the table is to accept the meeting ground rules and the audience of citizen public participation for LMAC meetings. As guidelines. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Seconded by Frank. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Any opposed?
So I'm not opposed to it, I just, again, I.
Would you prefer to abstain?
Yeah.
I'm abstaining too.
2 abstains. 9, 0, 2. Terrific, thank you. And again, it's just we're starting off new, fresh as a team, and there's some guidelines for all of us to keep in mind as we move forward.
I think this is yes, or is it?
The second, LMAC mission rules. I'm assuming all of you have had a chance to read this. It was sent out a week ago. I will make a sidebar note that 1 week prior to every LMAC meeting, if there are pertinent documents or information for LMAC to review, I'm asking us individually and as a team to review them before we come to a meeting. So that we're not seeing something for the first time and we're spending our time not efficiently or effectively because everybody's got to read. In 2018, as background, Carl Foster suggested that we needed a meeting statement that complemented our Town of Columbia charter, and he provided it. In 2020, we continued to discuss it. Henry and myself have weighed in. And this is the mission, as reads, is the 2020 version that we never again accepted as LMAC or codified in terms of what is our mission to support the town charter. The duties also were presented by Carl Foster in 2018 and updated in 2020. So I am making a motion that we, as an LMAC team, moving forward from this point on, accept a mission and LMAC duties. So everyone again is on the same page and is aware of what our mission and duties are as we focus. And sometimes, as Bob mentioned, have contentious issues that we fall back and make sure we're focused on our mission. So my motion is to accept the 2020 version 2 mission and LMAC duties. I will open for a second. Ann, thank you. Ann Dunick is seconding the motion and discussion, please. Ma'am?
2 things I noted, whether you want to add them on to this or not, that our meetings are monthly. It doesn't state on our duties and responsibilities that we have a monthly meeting.
Okay,
And then the annual report.
thank you. And we could entertain a friendly amendment, but let's pause that for a second and get more input and then I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Because there are also special meetings. Yes, yeah, on the page, right?
And the charter speaks to meetings.
Excuse me, Henry?
The charter speaks to meetings. When every year when we reorganize, we're supposed to set up our meeting schedule for the year. So rather than have it be dictated as part of a standalone
Mission guide, or
it's handled more on an administrative basis, if that's okay.
so I think
That's filed, it is filed yearly.
we're covered.
Just a comment, I think this would be super helpful to post on our website. So the rest of the world, also understands, what our mission and responsibilities are, because I think at times there's a lot of confusion.
It speaks to Jeff's relative to communication earlier. Henry?
I would like to entertain 2 things under mission. I think we need to tie it to what our charter is under the town, because we can't have anything expand on that. So I would just, and it may be just self-serving, but I would say, introduce the charter language, I would say something like, for purposes of fulfilling our town charter duties. And for the benefit of town residents,
Terrific.
so that we make it clear that we're not trying to exceed our charter. And then, I have a problem with the second to last bullet point. Support agreed upon motions with recommendations given by LMAC to the board of selectmen. I think you have to support, it would be wise to support the position that you take in voting. But there is room for disagreement and dissent. And so that if you vote against something or take a minority view, that can still be reflected. So I think that the concept of support does not necessarily follow. Yes, you've got to indicate that that's what the LMAC position was, and that you feel contrary to that, and so forth. But you do have to allow for people to express their own views and be consistent with them.
That's a little bit touchy, because we've had situations where we've taken a position as a board, and then we've had members go out and say something quite different from the position that we took, so I assume this was trying to address that. I don't disagree with what you said, Henry, maybe there's a different way to word this, but I think we as a commission have to speak with one voice. I think that's the message that we're trying to capture, is it not?
And we did talk about this, probably a year ago, a year and a half ago.
I think Bob Hall addressed it on occasion.
And I thought back then, and I know there's different people on the board right now, but I think everybody was in agreement at that point. Because I agree, we have to be careful how, I mean, the last thing we want is that, yes, the board agreed to this, but I think it's wrong, I move. I mean, that sends a terrible signal out to the town.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful how we say that, or.
There's
Has to be done,
sorry, Jim.
Go ahead.
There's a concept, when you don't vote, and we're a voting member, but there's a concept called consensus. That we've reached consensus, and consensus is sometimes, or there are levels of consensus. I agree to, I differ, but I'm going along and supporting the board. And I think if we can redefine this to be more of the one voice consensus, would that make more sense? And you were gonna.
I think that's the purpose for a motion and a vote, is that the board presents the majority. Oh yeah, there's lots of different opinions, but the board puts forth one.
Any other thoughts before Henry?
I'd like to suggest a possible reading to say, properly represent motions and recommendations given by LMAC to the Board of Selectmen when taking a personal position contrary to LMAC's position.
Say that again, please, read that again.
I said properly represent motions and recommendations given by LMAC to the Board of Selectmen when taking a personal position contrary to LMAC's position.
Could you just leave the back end of that off and just say properly present the
Sure.
position?
You don't have.
Yeah, I don't think you need the.
With
where your
you can say properly represent.
Yeah,
Motions and recommendations given by LMAC to the Board of Selectmen. So
period.
that you don't. So color them in a different fashion than the decision that was made, abuse them in any fashion.
So
So,
we're replacing it with,
well, if we're replacing it, then Henry, you're providing a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I would make a friendly amendment if it were, if it was accepted by the person who made the motion. To change, instead of saying support agreed upon, to say properly represent motions and change the width to and.
So you're replacing the sixth bullet point.
No, just changing the first phrase of it.
the support and agreed upon.
Is saying properly represent
Gotcha.
motions, and I would change width to and, motions and recommendations.
Awesome.
I like that.
Is there a second to that change?
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Well, we need a second and then discussion. Second, Phyllis, Jeff, you have a.
This is an advisory debate, right? So you don't need 100% consensus. You can have differences of opinions, but it's based on a majority.
Absolutely.
Okay, so even if another member doesn't agree with what it is and they're in the minority, I mean, they've already expressed their vote, so yes, they're gonna have to go to the board on the majority anyway. So I just wanna make sure that's clarified. So,
Does your amendment?
Yeah, well, it basically says if you voted against or otherwise change your mind or whatever, you can take a contrary position. But you've got to represent that this is what LMAC decided and to tell exactly what it was in a fair and straightforward manner, and then state I was of a different opinion because, and then try to convince them to your minority point of view, because they're looking for information and they want to know the best possible information. And so they should know the minority viewpoint as well as the majority viewpoint when they're making their decision. And one would anticipate that they would favor the majority, but the minority position may have them shoot the middle. It is something that they.
I just wanted to make sure that it didn't have to be 100%, we can still have a discussion about it, but
Correct.
it's gonna go on majority and that's the view of the board itself in its entirety.
Yes,
Okay.
that makes sense.
There you go.
And I think your amendment addresses that, Mark.
Um,
Bob, and Bob.
Yes, question, the wording that you proposed, Henry, was properly represent.
Yes.
My question is, what's the definition of properly?
Well, do we want to say fairly? The idea is that you don't twist it.
Fairly, I think is a good
Get fairly, change properly to fairly.
Does that make sense, Bob?
Yes, to me it does, yeah.
Okay,
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
friendly amendment?
Yep.
Second. Phyllis. So fairly represent motions and recommendations given by Wilmette to the Board of Selectmen. Good thoughts, good discussion.
I just had one thing to clarify. Henry mentioned the charter.
Yeah.
In the charter, there's only one sentence that
Right.
defines
Yeah,
who shall be responsible.
right. Actually,
Yes, okay,
okay, yeah, so we're good.
so that is right out of the charter.
Call the question? Motion on the table with a friendly amendment?
Two friendly amendments.
Two friendly amendments, excuse me. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Greg,
I'm good.
I believe we're unanimous, Bob and Greg, I
Yep.
saw, yes. And no abstentions, terrific. Thank you, I think that this is kind of our guiding star. This is where, when we have those discussions, and we know we're going to, that there's gonna be differences of opinion, then at least we can use this as our overall star. What does it mean?
Mary,
For our mission,
be editing this and sending it to Jen before we post it to the web.
yes,
Okay.
Phyllis.
No, it's well, so I'll tell Jen to see, there's an amended version coming.
Now, for the sake of time, standing committee, special projects and liaison communications, two thoughts. First, thank you to each of you I've had one-on-ones with all of you, and you've expressed not only some priorities, but some interest and participation. Obviously, between meetings, there's work that needs to be done. I'm going to pause and put this on hold. And if a motion is needed, make a motion that we first move forward to unfinished business and new business for sake of time. But also that it may make sense for us to have some discussions over what standing committees, what special projects, and what liaison communications should we all be considering. So I'd like to make a motion that we change the agenda and move forward to unfinished business. Audience of citizens first and then unfinished business. And the rest of the, and come back to 0.7, 8, and 9.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor, any discussion? All in favor? Any votes? Let's move forward. Yes, audience of citizens. We've got Judy Preston and Mike. And I'm seeing no audience of citizens for this evening.
Nothing from me.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Let's move forward to unfinished business. And I'd like to try to organize this in a way that we can move forward in a somewhat quick way. We have provided the old policy 1990, which I'm going to set aside now. A new clean policy and a new red policy in red. I'm going to refer to the policy in red. Policy regarding seasonal Columbia Lake water levels and manage. And then I'm also going to refer to who did we not get it?
Which one?
There was a cheat sheet. Does anybody have a cheat sheet?
Yes.
There you go. Somehow you make money.
It's at the beginning.
So
Or
I'm
it's
gonna,
behind you.
thank you. I'm gonna refer you to, no, I didn't get one. Where's the cheat sheet? Here, may I borrow it? For us to try to move forward in a be quick but not hurried fashion, I'd like to refer you to the policy regarding seasonal Columbia Lake water levels and dam management in red. You'll see red ink. And then there's a cheat sheet. And again, there have been some other changes since, but a week ago, the expectation of the email was, please review this and come in with your edits, changes, additions, deletions. I'd like to start to address the major areas that we have discussed for a motion eventually to change the current water level policy with the changes that we agree upon tonight. So I'd like to start with format changes to paragraphs. You will note now versus the old policy that we've tried to streamline this and have 17 paragraphs versus the old policy. Are there any issues with changing that and trying to make it a little simpler to read?
Not with changing it, but it's a real stretch to call this a streamlined document. I really struggled when I read it,
Okay, thank you, Muffy.
but that's just a comment.
But based on the format changes to paragraphs, let's move forward. Try to start with an easy one. I'm gonna hop right to paragraph 5. One of the things we discussed was we need to ensure that there is a purpose in terms of why we have all lake drawdown. Are there any additions, edits, deletions to the fall drawdown? Paragraph 5.
I assume this is rooted in some source material that supports the ecological benefit of the drawdown. We've all said that, but I've never seen the data that actually supports that.
I can guarantee you the data exists, Muffy. If you would like to see it, I can give you several
I
examples.
believe you, I just,
Anybody else?
David?
It exists in many, forms through deep, through Connecticut Agricultural Environmental for invasive species. And I can go on. So, this is a typical recommendation, for environment, ecological, as well as the structural management of drawdowns in ponds, lakes, etc. Any changes? Paragraph 5. If not, major change again was made in paragraph 7. And the change is what's in red. With the drawdown goes to 6, -6. We say it can come up to -5, 6. Middle ground, targeting about the middle ground -5, 9. That is the proposal. Any thoughts or changes to that? It's again, trying to manage a dam. This is not a bathtub. And trying to keep, when you're measuring something twice a month or more. But typically we say twice a month.
What was it in the old policies?
The old policy was -6 to 5, 6. And the suggestion is targeted to the middle of that -5.
The goal was to just make it clear that, we're not trying to micromanage some kind of number. Because you can't, necessarily always get it, but the environmental reason for doing this is to take the water down and have, in the fall and have all of the, organisms that live in the bottom or, under the bottom to move out with it. And then let the water come back up to provide a buffer zone so that you don't take it down accidentally below 6 feet again and thereby hurt the organisms that need to remain underwater.
So,
Mhm.
so we had a 6-inch variance before.
A range.
Range, and we're saying we don't wanna micromanage it, but now we're giving it a 3-inch range. To me, that is micromanaging.
It's a good point. Thoughts?
I mean, 3 inches could happen in one storm, it just seems, to me, that's.
It's still within the range.
Yeah, I think Jim was just saying you're targeting the midpoint of the range,
Yeah.
but.
Wouldn't this still be between 6 and
Yeah.
5, 6?
Yeah.
It's
You
still
know,
within
You're
the-
just splitting the difference, that's your target point. So whether you're up or down, plus or minus, that's your variance based on water,
Correct.
so. Keyword is target.
I think we put this in there basically to provide comfort and guidance to Beth Hunt.
Yeah.
On who is the gatekeeper there, so that she can instruct her force that goes out and does it in response to citizens.
Good point.
Yeah, so Jeff just clarified it for me. I just think if the wording is a little you put targeting first, targeting 5 feet 9 inches, not to exceed 6 feet and not to go below, to have the target in the first statement might help, just help clarify it for me.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you could put parenthetically after that range, 5, 6 to 6.
Yeah, the target's 5, 9, give or take 3 inches on each end is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're recommending an edit there.
It's very good, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
right, I think the problem is, interpretation, you don't know how somebody else is gonna interpret something.
Yeah.
And, the last thing we want is that at 5'8", you know what I mean, she wants to drop some out, and I use she, because that's what is doing it right now, but I mean, you know what I mean? Right, where personally, I think with the range, you know what I mean, she's gonna let it fluctuate, or a person would let it fluctuate in between there. And when you give them that 5'9", you hope they don't interpret it at 5'8". She wants, they want to.
Right.
I mean, because Beth is doing it, obviously. You don't know how much focus she's gonna give to that target. When really we're looking at that 6 inches buffer you know, for her purpose, and I see why we're doing it, don't get me wrong. Sometimes some people, you know, want that specific, you know, the specific numbers, and other people want that range. It's easier for them, it's just the personalities, I guess.
It actually doesn't work to change the order of the language given what the first part of the sentence says. Because it says the level of the lake will not be allowed to rise higher than,
5, 6.
then you can't put 5'9" there. Or you say rise higher than 5 feet 9 inches, parentheses, plus or minus 3 inches. I guess you can say it that way.
Henry?
I would favor, based on the discussion, just taking out the red wording, because the important thing is not to let it go lower than 6 feet and to try to keep it lower than, not going more than 5'6", because 5'6" protects the dock, 6 feet protects the environment. And so we're in between that, and that's where the emphasis should be.
So take it out.
Yeah, I would take it.
I like that idea
I
personally.
agree.
Yeah, why
Keep it simple.
don't we edit it and delete that?
Okay, so you're gonna remove
So
the,
that will come out.
you're gonna remove the red total.
Let me just take a moment. My compliments to Henry. He has been working on this ad nauseum. And has provided 7 or 8 revisions. So Henry, thank you. We'll make the appropriate edits to ensure that that's taken out. I'm gonna move to ice conditions, thickness, coverage, beach, and a warning. These are a little bit of new additions, relatively significant in providing some perspective in terms of the definitions and trying to balance, and Henry, you just said it, environment and structural. So any thoughts or comments to the changes that are being made?
Yep. All right.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, down under where it starts talking about the evaluating the ice conditions of the lake. The gatekeepers should consider the following. Does that mean that only these things should be considered, or other things could be considered?
Suggestions as to other things, or are you suggesting?
Well, I'm just saying it, the way it's written now, my interpretation is that these are the only criteria upon which you can evaluate the conditions. Are there other things that could affect the conditions that aren't on here? Or do you say
Let me,
not limited to the following?
okay, Henry?
You could put in, should consider among other things, follow.
That would be fine.
Among other things.
Where are you? Could you tell me where you
In just before ice thickness definition,
Oh,
in evaluating ice, should consider among other things.
Okay,
Number 8, 7th paragraph.
when, yeah, during this thickness,
Okay.
measuring, yeah. Right here.
Yeah.
I would probably say at a minimum, among other, because if you say among other things, then you'll say, well, what are the other things then?
At a minimum is fine too.
At a minimum.
Yes.
All right, we'll make that change. Everybody in agreement, at a minimum, consider at a minimum.
The following.
Yes, the following. Awesome.
So, just so I read it, we're saying between January and mid-February, the lake will not allow it to rise above -4 feet. Is that right?
Between January 1st and mid-February, the lake will not be allowed to rise to -40,
What was it before?
-36.
And then we say 3.6 after after ice leaves and then comes back. You know what we're trying to say?
Where are
I'm
you?
reading some, I saw 3.6.
Yeah, I think the table would be.
That's on number 9, under ice free
Yes,
conditions.
that's what it's on.
If you refer to, and thanks to Muffy, she tried to take words to numbers, there's a seasonal Columbia Lake water level proposed chart that could accompany this policy. And it's a season water level goal from base water level and minimum to maximum water level. In that, and Jim, you've just brought up the discussion, when we begin lake fill, currently 1990, 2006 says minus 3.6 inches. And the suggestion is minus 4.0, based on discussions of how many docks could be impacted if ice came down. So it is a 6-inch, which way should we go? Should we maintain what was in 1990? And reasonably throughout the last 10, 20 years? Or should there be an adjustment based on the review of the docks that we did?
Well, and I think one thing you gotta keep in mind is that 6 inches of water at -4 is a lot different than 6 inches of water at -3.5. That's a lot more water we need from spring. Because the lake is much wider when there's 6 more inches on it. So that's a lot more water that we need in rain in order to get a full lake.
But do we need it in mid-January to mid-February?
Not between mid-January and February. I agree with that,
Okay.
but have we ever had the lake in January and the first 2 weeks of February at even -4?
I don't think,
With ice on, with ice on?
What was it last year? I mean, we generally have it with ice on it, it is still usually at the 5, 6 range. And
5, 6 range, not 4.
yeah, but we can't go to the 4 feet in that early period of time. Unless the ice has started to leave, then you can go.
Or there's no ice.
Or there's no ice, then you can go to the 4 feet. And start the fill, but then if the ice reforms, you've got to
Reduce it.
you can, it says at least 3.6, you can take it back to 4. Because of the fact that you may need to protect the docks and suddenly we're gonna see a cold week like we got coming up. And you're gonna have more than 2 weeks, so you just, but this allows for a little bit of a circuit breaker to allow the water to start to come back in if we have a mild winter.
Which we've seen in 5 of the past 7 years, not last year, not this year.
I have to tell you, sorry, Frank. Right, I'm super ambivalent about changing what we've been doing.
I have a question as a new person, just to know the average here with dock depth, right? So we talk a lot about the ordinances about the length of the dock, but do we know what the average dock depth is? So at point, like, is there a few that if you change it by 6 inches, does that then affect, 20% of our docks? I don't know those numbers. Have we ever taken an assessment of that? Where do we measure that when we're doing that?
The first time that it was done was this year, and it's not total science. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 10 days, every other day going to 10 different spots and seeing how many docks were out at certain water levels. So that was provided at our last meeting, and I'm sorry I did not print it out, but I'll give you an example. If we're at -3.6, 70% or 134 docks are out of the water. If we're at -4.1, 90% or 173 docks are out of the water. This was art, not science. But it was a first attempt to say, when are all the docks on the water? There are actually 5 docks around the lake but are still impacted by water.
And wasn't there a total count of like
191 docks, 191 docks.
So out of the 191 docks, there's 5 docks that are still in the water. That's what,
Oh, what is that? 97%.
97% of the docks are out of the water.
Out the water.
But
Henry?
we should note that some of those docks are in many are cement. And have a little
Correct.
more resistance, and all are longer than the 20 feet
The vast majority are 75 and 80.
that our regulations allow, so they're either longer because
They're
they're grandfathered or they have gotten special permission to be
Right.
longer.
Right.
And
So in moving forward, I'm trying to gain some consensus in terms of, are we at -3.6 or -4.0?
I have looked up the policy that Jennifer sent to me, and I think we need to stay at 4.0. Just let me get it in front of me again.
So are you saying?
Because this is the policy that I think the 3.6 actually came in more in the 2018 policy than the earlier one, because the earlier one says that throughout the winter, while the lake is ice covered, the level of the lake will not be allowed to rise higher than 5 feet below the water level, nor drawn down more than 5'6". The purpose of this range is to protect aquatic life that follow the receiving water line. And to protect private property from ice damage. Each year on or about March 1, allow the lake to rise to a maximum of 3'6" below before ice out. So you can't do that until March 1 under this policy with if there's ice. And the reason to do it starting March 1 is because time's getting short, so we're taking more of a risk. And so I don't think we should be thinking about trying to do 3.6 early on. I can remember personally making a motion to make it 3.6 in some of the years in which we had no ice on the lake, so that we had a little more discretion to the Board of Selectmen to be able to go to 3.6 at an earlier point in time, which this preserves if the ice is out. But under the old policy, it was you had to wait till March 1 before you could let it go to 3.6, and at that point you could let it go to 3.6 whether there was ice or not.
So your suggestion, Henry,
We
is
should stay with what we are.
stay at -4?
At -4, yes,
Okay.
because that's
Any other-
broader than we were allowing.
And again,
Are you saying though -4 between January 1st and February?
depending on if ice is on the lake,
No, I know, like the worst case scenario, ice is on the lake, you don't wanna take it up before.
No, if there's ice on the lake, it's between the 5 feet and the 5, 6, and 6.
6 and 6.
Okay. So, but after mid-February, then we're saying we can, are you still keeping that -4? My biggest concern is after mid-February, -4 is too low. That's my
Next, -4, if ice is out, after mid-February, if the ice is out, you just let it continue to rise from there. The only reason between January 1 and mid-February that you only go to -4 is because ice would reform. But chances of it reforming in a significant fashion after mid-February does not exist because it requires long dark nights and wind-free conditions for ice to a significant amount of ice to reform. So we'd have to have an Arctic blast similar to what we've had the last 2 weeks happen in late February. It can happen, but usually it does not.
and sun's much stronger. But I don't see, I guess that I understand what you're saying, and quite frankly, between January 1st and February 14th, -4 seems fine. My opinion is it's fine. It's after February 15th where I don't see where we're allowed to bring it up.
I see.
Well, yes, if you look at 9, it says each year after February 14th, the surface of the lake is essentially free of ice and unlikely to reform and threaten. The grate shall be closed and the lake allowed to return to base water level.
So we need to adjust this chart.
But you're saying it doesn't,
Show
The
that.
chart is,
if ice is still on the lake. You can't do that, according to this.
Well, you can't do that. We've changed the existing, the policy from, the turn of the century, basically, which had allowed for it to go to 3/6 with ice on, but, in general, I'm not sure we've ever allowed that to happen, just because of the fact it invites problems.
and Mark Coleman has said if ice was on the lake greater than 2 inches, he never let it go to -3/6. I met with Mark Coleman twice. I actually have to catch up with him again. But I
Mark
think
did
this
again.
chart needs to be redone to reflect what Jim is saying. That we can go to -3/6. And again, this is so hard. We can't predict climate. We can't, we're trying to legislate something we don't control. And yet give guidance to those who who need to control it.
And allow flexibility to
This
respond to the conditions at
But
hand.
this doesn't allow the flexibility, that's my, and again, I, between January 1st and February 14th.
What change would you?
But what I'm concerned is that we don't have that flexibility. If there's a couple inches of ice and it's white ice, we should be letting water come back in there. That ice is not gonna do any damage at all.
So in number 9, ice-free conditions,
Ice free, that's the.
It says it's-
It doesn't say.
It says it's essentially free.
more than 2 inches in thickness exist or reform. So anything less than 2 inches in thickness can go to -3/6. Maybe we should reword that, Henry.
Well, I think in the event,
Ice melting conditions. And please,
I just wanna interject something into Morgan's question. The lake drawdown, and I've heard this from the time I was a kid, protected the dogs, the wildlife, but it also winter killed many vegetation around the lake.
yes,
And we never had any. And then,
those that will be killed.
what, and now I'm wondering, what is the effect since we have started raising the level of the water earlier and earlier? What is the effect on the drying out of the leaves?
it's the freeze
The freeze.
that's critical.
Yeah.
And so if we don't get the freeze, we may not have as an effective kill. I would say
And the just drying out of
it
it.
doesn't, drying out doesn't matter. It's the freeze that breaks the cellular content of the roots and the vascular system of
Those native or non-native plants that are impacted and die.
right, as opposed to seeds.
Yes. Henry, are you?
Yes, on 9, I would like to suggest, because I'm not sure when it came in, the words exist or reforms be taken out, because it contradicts the first sentence.
Okay,
It's basically saying when the surface of the first sentence says when the surface of the lake is essentially free of ice. So essentially free of ice allows you to take in the ice thickness, the coverage, beached ice, all of the things that have been said up above. But in the event a substantial ice sheet, more than 2 inches, reforms, the concept here is the reformation, because if it gets cold enough to put 2 more inches of ice on the lake, you're no longer in a punky white ice condition.
Yeah,
You're in, the fact that you've had a significant cold snap and ice is growing as opposed to melting and shrinking away.
I put that in because of the way it was worded. It said each year the surface of the lake is essentially free of ice, and it's not always free of ice after Feb 14. So maybe you wanna say if the surface of the lake is essentially free of ice.
Yeah, yes, that, the word if
That covers
got bumped out of there, it should be in there.
Yeah,
Could we instead say essentially free of ice, couldn't we say if the surface of the lake is free of damaging ice? Because again, it's an interpretation. You know, a layman would
I
look
like
at a
that.
lake that's frozen, is gonna say that thing's frozen up solid, cause he doesn't see a lot of water showing.
but we're
We
saying in ice thickness definition, ice of 2 inches or more can have significant force. Ice of less than 2 inches is what you're referring to.
Well, I don't even like the thickness because you know, you get the white ice, it's got so much air in it. When that hits a concrete dock, even a wooden dock, it just shatters. You know what I mean? But if it's that black or clear, that really clear hard stuff, that's a whole different story. But it's gotta be cold to do that, substantially cold. And you know what I mean? That's why I would just, we gotta be careful how, you know, we don't know who's gonna be interpreting this.
So what was the words that you suggested?
What is it, damaging or structural,
damaging.
damaging.
Is essentially free of damaging ice, is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah, and that way, you know, that, now there will be a discussion. It's 2 inches, but somebody will say, yeah, but did you try to walk on it? Your foot goes right through it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you realize that the 20 foot of perimeter ice is that soft mushy stuff. It might look pretty solid from the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
but it's not.
I agree.
Okay, and I did
So
want
you
to
would accept damaging.
Yeah, yes, thank you. And if I could just a comment, you were talking about like, you know, why is it more? And this is just my opinion, but, this gets into drainage and stuff, but if people remember back 20 years ago, the bottom of the lake was virtually sand, gravel, and rock, and that was it. And when we lowered it, there was no organic material on the whole perimeter of the lake. You could literally walk around the lake without boots because you sink in 4 feet. I mean, 4 to 6 inches. Today, it's much different when you try to walk around the lake in the spring, you know what I mean? Because there's so much organic material that I believe has come from the road. You know what I mean? And that's why we have the drainage that we would be talking
Yeah,
about.
it's coming in, and it's also coming through walls and under
Yeah,
walls as they're undermined from the back.
But that's more natural and that's a much slower, if it was all just from the walls, you know what I mean? But you know, some of these storms, we have pictures and photographs of just tons of this organic material just floating in, and it just sits there, and that's what I think, my opinion, you know, that's what I think is creating all this mass, you know,
Right.
So this is-
Got a subject.
This is interesting, good discussion.
yeah, I know. Well, what is it, Elmo?
Turn to the dam water control policy. Jim has a very good point when we had our one-on-one, as did others, but we'll come to that priority later. Okay, so in that correction, damaging ice is acceptable to everyone. Can we move on to paragraph 10, spring and summer spillway?
Just to review the changes for that one, the 9, we're putting if in after February 14.
Yes, I have that.
We're adding,
Damaging.
or damaging ice after free,
And taking
and
the
taking out
system.
this or.
Correct, I have that now, thank you. The clarification. Paragraph 10. Spring, summer spillway runoff. Any changes,
The other
Brian?
question, has the spillway changed in level over time?
Has the
The road
spillway
is,
changed?
is it cracked? Or
it may have changed by an inch when somebody puts a little bit of cement on top of it to repair it, but it doesn't really,
It hasn't.
change, it hasn't intentionally been elevated.
They do this, there's the view, the way.
Down, it's gonna be down.
Down.
No, it's down. It's the lower part.
So in hearing no changes,
What was it before the 3 foot 6 inches?
the desired water level, wait a minute,
What are you on?
we're on number 10, we're on number 10.
I can answer that,
The desired,
before this was here, the concept had just been to bring it back to the base water level, to going over. Well, the original policy had been to just bringing it back, and we've favored for a number of years the concept of having water flowing over the dam to keep water moving through the lake. And we found that we aimed for a while after 2018 or 2021 for 6 inches, but 6 inches is too high for some walls, and it also covers up curtain drains and sub pump drains, which causes water to back up or slow down coming out from them. So having it at 4 inches seems to be a better target.
and we did conduct in 2023 and 2024, literally when it was at +2, +4, and it was over, it might have been +6, where walls would have been compromised. And +4 became the ideal target. That report can be provided if needed. With pictures. Sounds like we're good? Spring, okay. Okay, let's hop to 16, effective precipitation events on the lake. This is to provide guidance in terms of when should, if we anticipate precipitation, particularly rain, we should be considering opening the dam to remove water. Particularly during the spring and summer recreational seasons.
What I wanted to say, what we're trying to address here
Please don't.
was a tendency for the town to take the water down too early.
And just, in 24 hours, if we open the gate, we can draw off what, 4 inches?
Mhm.
And I just thought everybody should know that,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so 4 inches is a lot of water,
A lot of water.
a lot of water over the entire service area, by the way, so.
And if I may speak again to the concept here, where we figured we would try to keep it to when you got to no more than 24, but hopefully 12, so that you could anticipate and not take it out too soon to only have the forecast change. And we also wanted to be sure we had an upper limit, because if somebody rushes in to drop it 12 inches, then you run the risk of undermining walls from waves and undermining the dam from waves, and which can be just as bad as topping them.
we've been kind of experimenting with this over the past 2 summers. The dam management committee of Henry, David, myself, Beth, Steve, and Mark. And we had followed kind of these guidelines, particularly related to the forecast. 72 hours, we're getting 3 to 5 inches of rain. 24 hours, we get an inch or half an inch. So making that determination closer to is one of the reasons. We just need guidelines so people can follow. Because we've had this since 2012 when we took the lake down to -6. And we never got a hurricane. So,
Yeah, and I just would point out, there's also an overarching thing in here that lets the selectmen decide under any kind of public disaster type thing to lower the lake. So if we're suddenly expecting 10 inches of rain from a hurricane and we can't necessarily get it out fast enough, he can say, well, let's take it down, on day 3, let's take it down a couple inches and kind of phase it. So there is flexibility here, for, a 100-year storm type event.
Hey, Mary?
Henry, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I just wanted, isn't 1 inch of rain equal about 4 inches into the lake? Did Mark say that?
Yeah,
It's saturated.
that is, depends on all these conditions, and it's kind of, when I spoke to, God, who is it at Deep? NTRC, someone, and I think it was Carl mentioned me, it's kind of a little wide scale. You gotta take in consideration the evaporation, the drought conditions, because we've been in drought conditions for the past couple of years. So 1 equals 4 does not really do it anymore.
All right.
That rule of thumb,
Well-
Greg, was more of a saturated, watershed. You know what I mean? And it doesn't account for like spring. In spring, that water doesn't even get to the lake because all the bushes and trees are sucking the water up before it even gets there. So, you know what I mean? It's a real rough rule of thumb.
I guess what I was trying to get to is if you're trying to predict the effect of the participation, if there was some kind of a ballpark definition of 1 inch of rain equals 3 inches in the lake, but we can also drain 4 inches in 1 24-hour period of time, it might be useful to put that in here.
That's the dilemma with that is why we added A, B, C, D, E, and F, because it's so dependent on what's the current water level, what's the precipitation forecast,
Okay.
what's the moisture level, what's the rate, intense rain, get it. When we got 3 inches, or what's it, 5 inches in 3 hours, we were doomed. For a nice word, 3 or 4 years ago. So are we ready to move on, or Henry?
I was gonna say, we had some of that in here before, but we were asked to simplify it,
Yes,
by the town, so it doesn't rule out that they can't use those rules of thumb. And know that maybe it's sometimes a year it's 4 inches and sometimes a year it's 3, or less. But they need to base it on these determinations.
I'll give you an example, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but a couple of storms we monitored, we got 1 inch of rain and the lake level went up 2 inches. But we were in a drought condition 2 years ago. So,
Mary,
okay, Michael,
what was the issue, on those couple of years that we had when we had the high water? What was the issue then?
intense rain, unanticipated.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
the
so
best way.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, back to back, like.
Yeah.
It was like almost more like a tropical storm.
Yeah.
I like,
Water was just nonstop.
I'm sorry, I like Steve Everett, biblical rains. That's what happened. So,
Okay, well, there used to be a time of year in June where we would kind of get a weaker rain and the walls would top because people were trying to keep the lake high for the benefit of the summer, but we got more rain than anticipated.
which is why we put in A, B, C, D.
Mary, are you going to have those rewritten and resent? Is that how you're gonna do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on, risk warning statement.
We don't really need to talk about that, do we?
I
Everybody read this, so.
if you read it and you agree with
It's
it,
8:15, we have.
thank you, Lucy.
That's a polite way, not polite way of calling an element.
Ability.
Let's move it on here.
Hey, that was an Elmo. All right. I am at a motion based on the discussion tonight with the amended changes. Are we ready to advise the Board of Selectmen with a motion that they accept the updated seasonal Columbia Lake water levels and dam management policy changes?
Could you just restate what we agreed to on this, table January 1st to Feb 14th? It says -3 feet 6 inches 1990 policy or -4. Do we agree on -4? Is that? Henry, that's what you were recommending?
Well, it's during a period of time. So I guess January 1 to February 14th, yes, it's -4, because I don't think I think it's wrongly stated that the 1990 policy allowed it to go to 3 4 6. I think the
I think you're right, Henry.
1990
I know.
policy did not allow that to happen until March 1,
Correct,
but under that policy, you could still have ice on lake on March
Correct.
1.
Okay, thank you for
Okay.
clarifying.
Yeah, but after February 15th, we can bring it up.
and this is all flexible.
Yeah.
What if February 1st we didn't get? Yeah.
What this basically does is allow you to get to 3 foot 6 before March 1, where the old
Yes.
policy didn't let you get there until March.
Well, now we're saying 4 foot.
Well, but we can after February 14, between
I get it.
February 14 and March 1, we can get to
I
3
get it.
6. So
I
we
get it.
got an extra 2 weeks,
Yes, depending on us.
depending on that.
I don't know if you all agree, I thought the table was super important because it was so hard to read through this policy and understand what it was saying. And if we have an assistant damn gatekeeper come in and in a hurry try to figure it out, I think it's gonna be very, very difficult to discern, so.
So motion to include the amendment, now the chart, as well as the edits that were made in the policy to advise the Board of Selectmen to accept.
this the chart you're?
Yes,
Yeah,
Are you going to decide?
We just.
we just did.
Make a decision.
Yes. Is there a second to the motion? Ann, Muffy?
Either one.
Ann, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained,
So this should go to the Board of Selectmen?
with changes, we still
Right.
haven't given them names.
So what changes?
Correct. Thank you, everyone, this is not easy
So
stuff,
when is the next selectmen's meeting, because it is,
it needs.
We're in budget workshop right now, so I'd say. The 24th is a. No, I think that's if needed, the point, no, the 24th is a meeting.
would you, please,
That's March 24th. There's nothing on the, it's not till March 2nd.
We can't discuss this with the Board of Selectmen in February.
February is back-to-back presentations from, including your board. All I'm doing is doing back-to-back presentations to both Board of Selectmen and 5PAC for the next 2 Board of Selectmen meetings. Each Tuesday from now on.
Well, then, you're saying
The
March.
2nd, March 2nd is the first normal Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
for point of information. I think we should have a conversation with Steve on this too, because I'm not sure where the selectmen are gonna take it. The selectmen could, because this is just a policy, it's nothing that's cast in stone. They could take action on it on their own on March 2nd. But they could also decide that they wanna have a public hearing or whatever on it, and if that's gonna cause delay. We want to hopefully have this policy in place by the time we have ice out. Now, ice out this year is gonna be later than it has been for the past several years, but we could end up having a warmer end of February if, start leave, so we don't want.
Note taken, Henry, and as a liaison to the town administrator and Board of Selectmen, I'll take that up. Okay, between now and March. Agreement? I'm gonna ask you to address the next unfinished business related to a potential antique boat show.
Sure, I thought Glenn Keegan would join us tonight, but I don't see him on Zoom. Glenn came to me as the president of the CLA.
You want that in the website?
I'm sorry.
With a proposal to do a kind of summer kickoff event with wooden boats. There's 4 on the lake. Jerry Krause only puts one of his 2 in each year, but maybe we get him to put them both in. and two that belong to somebody who doesn't live on the lake. I think he had a larger plan initially in mind, but we dialed it back to something more modest, and maybe we'll get into that, maybe that's even more than we want to do. To give rides, to show the boats, to have pontoon boats there, and Phil, I wanna talk specifically to you about what's planned already for the 250th celebration. We could have a band there, maybe Trumbull Highway or somebody like that. We could get Twin Peaks to come in. That was very successful and brought them to the concert last summer at the beach. And ideally, this would be at the public beach. I raised a similar issue to this, not with wooden boats, but last summer, CLA had an idea to have a summer kickoff party at the beach. And so I went to Jake Plitt, and what I got back was like a 7-page memo from a lawyer saying all the liability issues around doing that, and it just was ridiculous, so it died on the vine. I raised this at my board meeting with the CLA board, 3 of whom are here, Frank and Bob Powell and Judy are on. And they raised concerns about asking for exemptions from the current ordinances. So if we put boats on the lake that belong to people who didn't live in the town of Columbia, that would not comply with our ordinance, because you have to be a resident to put a boat on the lake. For example, if those 2 wooden boats that don't belong here, and I don't think this is the case, but I don't know for sure, had a horsepower that was higher than the horsepower we allow. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know for certain. Then that would be another exemption that we would need. So they raised a concern about that. My concern, which is reasonable, which is why we're back in front of MONAP. So I was gonna go meet with Steve Everett, and it was pointed out to me appropriately that no, we don't go straight to the selectmen, we go to LMAP, and LMAP makes a recommendation, which was the right advice. I really, and I'd like to ask Phyllis to comment on this. I think it's kind of ridiculous, frankly, if we can't give people that live in the town rides on the lake. I just think that's ridiculous. There's people that live in this town that's never even been on the lake. So I would like to find a way to do that. We could scale this back from a wooden boat point of view to just the boats that are already on the lake, and then we won't need an exemption for non-residency or horsepower. But the pontoon boat giving rides from the public beach is still gonna be an issue. So Phil, you seem to have overcome that, because I saw in the program for the 250th, there's 2 different dates, one in July and one in August, where you're giving boat tours.
This is the 250th anniversary of the contract. And therefore, because we've been given the task of a municipality to be able to put on events for our own towns, we can do this. And each of us who are going to do those dates have our own insurance policies. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but had to be at least 6 or 7 years ago, the Historical Society, we had people from the town come to the beach and get on our pontoon boats, and we did tours around the lake, informing them of all of the different people that have lived on this lake over the years. So we already did that, but that was due to our own insurance policy. So if you get on my boat, I have liability insurance on my boat, I'm covered. And I'm covered for anyone who comes on my boat.
Well, the memo that I got that was given to me by Jake, because I'm sure you probably got it from you, Mark, it was way more complicated than
Correct. And that was Jake tends to, forgive me when I say this, and he does a great job, but Jake is following the rules of the town on exactly what has to be done for the recreational department. This is not the recreational department handling this. This is the 250th anniversary, that's why we're doing this, for the residents of the town.
It was also a fundraiser. You can't charge and then be exempt.
That was just what I was gonna say. If you're for hire, you have to play by different rules. If you're not for hire, you're not taking money for it.
we're
What's the
very in
issue
charge, I
with-
think.
with
No,
the
but that
terms?
clarifies.
Yeah.
You know, I.
Correct.
You couldn't charge.
Pardon me?
No, donation is a donation.
Donation
Yeah,
is a
that's a
donation.
donation goes to something done.
They were
What
done.
you're charging for like a sunset cruise
Yeah.
to go out there and you're gonna get your whole spring bottle. Now it's business.
Yeah.
Okay, you're doing it by hire, but any private insurance, Progressive, Geico, whatever it is that you have for your boats is gonna cover your liability for
Yeah.
whoever passengers and
Well,
vessels.
Henry, let me just finish this also. Those dates are scheduled to give tours around the lake. That's for the 250th.
Yeah.
If I can back up just for a second on the other issue with Lent and with boats.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, everybody has their own opinion in here. I think it would be a very beautiful thing to see those beautiful wooden boats. And in an event that is not damaging our horsepower, this is just an antique show for people to do their boats. They're not gonna be going out on the lake speeding around. And I really think that as a board, we should consider something like that for people who live in this town that never see anything like this.
Right.
Even if somebody decided to do sailboats on the lake within our number of feet, obviously, that we have for sailboats, what is it, 36 or something, 32? I don't know what it is off the top of my head. But if you're having a special event, I don't see why we can't have something like that. Controlled event.
Yeah. Would you suggest, I think, Bob, this was your suggestion, that we combine with whatever you're doing and have it under this rubric of the 250th celebration?
And I'll bring it
But I'll-
forward tomorrow.
Cleanest.
It also sounds like as long as the boats have proof of insurance, it's
Oh,
okay.
yes.
So
Yes.
they would have to show that to Marine Patrol, right? Oh, I lost you
Well,
guys.
we'd have to come up with some mechanisms, but Bob, you had your hand up first and then Henry.
Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
at the CLA meeting, Muffy, you represented the conversation very well. But again, to reiterate my concern, again, I'm for this very much so, but I was looking at sort of the legal aspects of it. And, last year we developed the new guidelines for access to the lake. And I'm afraid that letting something like somebody who's non-conforming to those suggestions, recommendations, would set a precedent. So somehow I was trying to find a way to allow those boats in. And one of the ideas would be under the auspices of the 250th year celebration, so that something could be written that would allow that exemption, that would state that it was for the 250th year celebration, so that the exemption couldn't be used again by anyone else.
That's a perfect umbrella.
It is a great umbrella, but that's.
Use it.
Henry?
You could even do it on an annual basis. I mean, the regulations do allow the selectmen to make exceptions. And the exception here is that it's an antique boat show for one day and one opportunity. And if you wanted to, you can say, no full throttle or whatever. But I think there's grounds for doing that. I also agree with what Greg said. You do need to have certificates of insurance. There are too many people around the lake that think that their homeowner's policy covers it, and it does not. And I think we should also think about recommending a minimum amount of liability insurance to participate. We don't want to require it, because if we require $300,000 and it's not enough, we don't want that to come back on the town. But, $300,000 liability policy is probably or 100,000, but you need more than 50. And then they should have a certificate of insurance, just so if you, to the extent that it's town sponsored, we've done some degree of due diligence.
Are you talking about for the boat rides or for the actual, because the show would be just there wouldn't be people in the,
I would say it's the
In
boat,
Joe.
for the boat rides.
Well, we were gonna give, that was an element of it, to give
Oh,
people
I-
rides in the
oh.
boat, maybe
So-
it's steerage,
so they-
not flying around the lake,
Yeah.
but still. Although, having said that, it is, as you all know, it's a lot harder to get in and out of a boat like that than it is a pontoon
Yeah,
boat.
the risk is not so much somebody getting hurt from an accident, it's, you know,
Well, it's-
breaking a leg, falling in, or,
Exactly.
getting in and out of, the boat, or potentially standing up at the wrong time and being thrown over the side and getting run over. Those are
Yeah.
the risk, and it's usually because of negligence of the passenger, or lack of knowledge of the passenger.
When I used to have my company's parties at our house every summer, and we, you know, so we take them skiing and tubing and all of that, and everybody signed a waiver when they came, you know, not holding me liable for anything that happens to them. And we just had them sign it and put it away, and that was that, so we could do that as well, as
I
just
think
have
that would be
everybody
fine.
sign waiver.
Yeah.
Before they get
if
a,
they wanna go on a boat, right?
yeah, sure.
And that's enough.
So am I hearing, it sounds like to me, the commission is for, sounds like to me, the commission is for some sort of event, whether you call it a boat show or boat ride or with antique boats. With qualifications.
Right, but
Under the
I worked with
250th.
Phil to do it as part of the 250th celebration for this year.
For this year.
This year.
For this
If
year.
it's a success, then maybe
Then
we
certificate,
do it again.
insurance issues, speed issues, and a waiver. So that's what I'm hearing.
Mhm. Does
So,
anybody have,
Well,
Frank.
I guess I'm not clear on what the purpose of the activity is.
it's to give people access to the lake, Frank,
Okay,
that don't typically
right,
have
so, and I've
access.
seen that when I hear about the pontoon boats, because it's, like we're saying, it's easier to get on. And so,
But they can also get in my boat, they can get in Jazzy, you know,
I
you've
think
been
we
in
should-
it.
I think what he's saying, if I can help you along, is why are we putting wooden boats on the lake that aren't typically here? Is that where you're
that
going?
could be it too, right, you know, it's
But it's a-
coming, why
it's-
making the exceptions, and I guess it's coming down to, you know, what are we trying to achieve with this?
It's just
Well,
a,
as a
it's
tennis.
just a boat show
Boat show.
for our residents, that's all.
They're very pretty.
And they're beautiful.
Absolutely, don't make me put this, you think, I just
Boat
want to
show, it's a boat show, and then it's access to the lake.
But
I mean, and we're talking about combining them. I
Yeah,
mean, into one type of thing now, you know, now whether or not, you know, they do some type, cause for the boat show, I don't know if. I mean, that's just, everybody can figure out how that.
oh, I've been thinking about that, we had to find out how we line them up.
But
And
there's
if
really
you,
those two purposes,
if you preferred,
boat show.
we could start small and just start with the boats that are already on the lake and not try to bring in these other two boats. I mean, there's 4 gorgeous wooden boats on Columbia Lake already. Jerry, again, he only launches one a year, but I'm sure I could get him to either bring the other one over on a trailer or maybe even launch it.
Bob,
Question, when we're talking about giving rides to people on the lake, is this open to the general public or only Columbia residents?
Well, the whole point would be Columbia residents.
yes, but it's also if they have family members that are coming, they're going to be eligible to come on.
Yeah.
It's the 250th anniversary of the country. We can't limit this just to Columbia.
But
That's my point.
pass
That's my
to
point.
get-
I don't think
Wouldn't
you
they
can
need
limit it.
each pass to get down?
No, because
Okay.
this is an event being held by the town.
Yeah,
I think you market it to the Columbia.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then if it spills over, how many people are really?
Let me give you an example, the gay lift that we just had. Family members came in from Washington DC, Massachusetts, Colorado. So, you know, it was an event for the town and their residents and their family members. So,
so let me make a suggestion. For sake of time, and we do have our budget that we have to review this evening. It sounds like that there is consensus that we wanna consider something. And could Muffy and Phyllis get together? Perhaps meet with Steve Everett, gain his insights. And come back with a motion with qualifications as to how we could do this. And minimize, if not prevent, any issues related to liability, harm to the lake, et cetera. And at the March meeting, come back to us with the money.
Yeah, just one quick comment,
Sure, Greg.
you know, because I think I'm from Bob's comments there, you know, if you're inviting people outside of families as well as the town, it could get really crowded, right? So one idea could be to sell ticket or not sell. Have a limited amount of tickets for boat rides. So you limit how many people and how much activity is gonna go for the boats.
When you're ready, yes.
You just have a finite time at which we
Right.
stop, you know, so
Yeah.
if you're in line before 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever time it is, you get a ride, otherwise you don't. I mean, I'd love to have some music there, I'd love to have a food truck there, I'd love to have a very well attended event. It's a goal for us for the CLA, which many of you know historically, Phil knows this better than anybody because she organized it all, did a lot of social stuff, and we've kind of gotten away from that, and I'd like this to be, you know, a very well attended social event for us, and there's so much benefit for people that live in town. I know you're trying to move us on.
Yes, dear.
Live in the lake.
The other
and
thing
go-
is, could the Lions Club organize the boat parade or something? You know, could the Lions Club take that liability from us?
No,
I don't think that would be something that we would go down. the
I think we have everybody.
Classic boat show sponsored by the Lions Club, and then donations to the Lions Club. Anyway.
So,
Let's.
Mary Henry's turn.
oh, Henry, one more comment. We need to move on. And
It does say,
we bought the.
antique boat. I don't think it should be limited to motorboats. It should include, old town canoes. It can, include kayaks from the Columbia, Canoe Club if they still exist somewhere. And they can include sailboats, sailboards, anything that are higher under people's cottages. And they may not be for rides, but they could be part of a land-based display.
Well, let's make this a special project. It's a once in a year, this year. And Phil and Muffy, if you could work out the details and come back to the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Really good input. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Mark is most interested in this discussion. LMAT 2026 budget, new business. Excuse me, there was the Tasman pond weed options. I'm going to table that. There's been an excellent suggestion that came that I wanna work out with Mike Felice and Greg Stryker. So we can have a productive conversation about Savannah Kitchen, who's our wetlands agent. I will be providing you her pilot program report from the weed control cutting that happened last year. What went well, pros, what were cons, and therefore in next steps, which Mike and Greg have some thoughts relative to that. How do we best move forward? So I'm gonna table that till March. Other than you will receive their report and then we'll have that discussion. Which is pertinent because we'll be approaching April and May. And if we're going to allow this type of thing, we need time to gear up for it. Henry?
I don't think you and I had a conversation of what committees I wanted to be on, but I'd like to continue to be on this because I was part of that pilot program and I also worked on the benthic blanket program and I'm very interested in the product.
Thank you. And that's why I have a preliminary draft as to who wants to be on what committees. So you just committed to another one because special project is town ordinances for you. So let's move on. Here's the deal. We sent out the TRC proposal. We asked everyone to read and be prepared. I'd like to refer to 3 PowerPoint slides that are in front of us. Relative to what's the total investment? Okay, which as you'll see in 2026, the total investment based on if we did everything, which would give Mark a heart attack, is in the range of 75,000 to 130,000, because album treatment, if we went with it, is in addition to 75,000. Mark has shared with me that this year our budget requests for the town are significantly high. So I'm gonna ask us, when we go through our consulting proposal, the base as well as the optional, that we do consider what's an absolute need for 2026 versus nice. And or could we put it off for a future time? The details of this is, Mark, the budget is about 18 million this year. And your
No,
budget request.
20, but we're up over 22 million.
22 million based on requests. So we really need to, again, tying it to our mission, focus on what's needed this year. So with that said, and Frank, I've sent this to you. Please weigh in. Frank is going to be helping us in handling the budget as we move forward. If you look at the entire consulting proposal, which is that first PowerPoint, there are what they say, base versus optional types of things. So, gotta go back to that. Chart, because I can't really do so. Surface quality, water base, stormwater runoff base, product mapping base. These are our typical things. Plus consulting and ad hoc consulting or additional communication as well as preparing reports. Is there any question from a need point of view that at $23,500 that we want these base tasks to maintain and understand where the lake is going? From a phosphorus, environmental, invasive species, even native nuisance species point of view. Base tasks would be at 23,500. Those would be, as I just mentioned, surface water quality, stormwater runoff, aquatic plant mapping, consulting time.
I mean, my view is this is a chump change for the value of the work and the cost of potential cost of not doing it. This is a rounding error. In my view.
This is, it's also what is indispensable to make what we've already invested in doing this continue to have value. It's a no-brainer from my perspective.
Yeah. Any opposing thoughts? Base is in any recommendation we make to the board. And apparently there's a presentation February 17th where we have to present our case. I'll be asking you.
Brief reason.
A what?
Brief.
Yeah.
And you're among 4 other departments.
Around
There, I thought we had a budget, didn't we have a budget of up to 20 on the last meeting that we had? I wasn't here, so didn't somebody say don't make it 18, make it 20, and then we'll have.
That was related specifically to the watershed management of revision, plan revision, which we'll get to. Okay, the bridge, because now we're going to optional. Okay. Update hydrological and nutrient budgets and trend analysis. This is an optional $1,000. It was requested or suggested by Savannah Kitchen, who actually does the nutrient allocation, but knows that it was the LMAX goal. Wanting to see, is it up to snuff? Do things have to be changed?
I think we should be doing that. It's a nominal amount of money, and we do need, because we often get questioned by the public on the value of the nutrient allocation. And so I do think it's time to do that, and it also supports the concept of what we may be doing with respect to watershed management plan,
Yeah,
so I guess
exactly.
basic data and the money is not significant.
Any opposing views? Keep it in?
So that was $1,000 for updating hydrological and nutrient budget.
Right.
That's it.
Septic seepage groundwater inspection investigation. I talked to Carl on this one. This is twofold. There's been some E. coli issues. So should we be looking, is there any septic seepage issues? But in addition, we've since had an oil spill and collecting this particular data would help us understand if there are any issues from the oil spill.
Well, first of all, in the past, we've handled septic scenarios on a case-by-case basis, and we usually haven't found it. So I would prefer to see them re-quote this if, you know, on a case-by-case basis, if we needed it, and we could probably get the selectmen to approve it out of other assets. I do think that we need to monitor the oil spill. And I don't know what the town is doing on that, but the town needs to be more involved, I think, than it presently is. And it is something that should be being covered by the homeowner's insurance for those expenses. The town should not have to be paying for that part of whatever we're doing that's specifically focused on monitoring oil.
Specific to the lake bed, Henry.
Yeah,
Specific to the lake bed, yes.
I think this, because this is really, and if there's an issue, finding it first. No landowner's gonna come to the town and say, oh, I think my septic is leaking into the lake. You know what I mean?
Mary?
This-
Mary?
This particular, I'm sorry, Bob.
Excuse me. I was at the Board of Selectmen meeting last night, and this topic came up, the oil spill up on Sleepy Hollow. And I thought there was great interest by the Board of Selectmen in this whole thing. So I think anything that we want to propose that involves this, now is the time to do it. I mean, their interest has peaked. We can take advantage of that in some respects, and you know, by putting something in a budget that helps either monitor this, whatever we need to do. I think this is the time to do it.
Bob, Carl said to me from TRC, this is a 2-for-1. We're gonna focus, and as you see in task 4, on the oil spill, and yet we can also use the same data to look at, is there any seepage or septic issue, because we've had high E. coli numbers at that particular area. So it's kind of a 2-for-1, but the real focus was on the oil spill.
Yeah, and allowing us to have money in there to do certain, specific investigations, if we feel it's needed, then we could potentially go back after the landowner. If once we can prove it, but we're gonna have to prove that it's a landowner's septic system. You know what I mean? If one, to make sure it stops, and then 2, then they would be on the hook. And maybe we could recoup it, but at least we have the money to go after it.
Why wouldn't the oil investigation be on the homeowner? They're on the hook for
It
everything
will be, but I would have this redone to focus on the oil.
Okay.
Because that will help it be more collectible from the insurance, and that's what we're really concerned with at this point about the oil. If we have septic outbreaks, they're usually spotted because of algal development or a lot of algae around a sub pump exit or something like that. So there are ways that we can see, sense that somebody might have a problem and then ask for a specific quote for a specific issue. But we do know we have that oil problem, and that's where.
So let's have the proposal reflect the
Oil, yeah.
Okay, understood. Are we in agreement?
But keeping
Frank?
I was gonna add to Bob's point that I think task 5 also falls into that category, looking for a rapid response.
Yes, yes.
So
That-
yeah.
Good bridge, thank you, Frank. Early detection and rapid response. Muffy, I have yet to view the 2 hour presentation from Twin Lakes that scared the heck out of you.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
and Donna here, and Frank, okay. And the issue of invasive species. Full lake cyanobacteria and oil spill needs early detection and needs rapid response. So this is something that I know Frank, you have harped on. They're willing to help us. They're saying it's gonna be $1,000. They obviously have the expertise. I've done some research. A lot of people have these in place and it's pretty much, here's the issue, and Muffy has referred to it as a risk map or a risk matrix to be informed. Here's the issue, here's the risk, high, medium, low. Here's what's gonna happen, likelihood and consequence or impact, and here's the cost. So that we're ready to go and then have what's in that plan. Who do we notify? I didn't know who to notify in an oil spill. I called Steve Evans. It was the fire department. I didn't know.
But TRC is gonna be, they can draft the elements of it, but they're gonna be coming back to us to say, you gotta fill in the
We gotta
blanks
fill in
and
the
who the people are.
And we do have some samples from other lakes of early detection, rapid response.
Yeah, it's a nominal amount
And-
and very important. Good bang for the buck.
And,
I don't know about the alum treatment.
okay, here we go. Yeah, low dose alum treatment.
I wouldn't do it.
And low dose alum treatment is, you can eliminate $3,400 because that's a pass on from TRC to Solitude. We've already worked with Solitude. They did our Phragmites invasive species. We go directly to Solitude, so I called Solitude, $55,000 for and I'm not sure we're there yet with the phosphorus load. We know we're at a tipping point, but we had a good year. God knows what could happen next year.
Right, there, one of the reasons for alum is also to lock the phosphate that's on the bottom. And because they found less in the sediment than they were anticipating, again, I think it's something we need to be more prepared for because the numbers are only gonna get bigger. And how is the town gonna handle it? And so I think we've got policy and politics to deal with before we ask for the money.
Good point.
Didn't Carl say that we probably didn't need to do that? Alum treatment?
Carl mentioned that based on the sediment, which he was surprised that it wasn't as high as he anticipated, it could be put on. So, but so, am I hearing that one's out?
Yeah, I wouldn't do the herbicide treatment either.
Okay, next.
Is-
Not this.
Bridging Muffy herbicide treatment.
I agree that, again, there's politics and policy there, and we haven't amply tried, really tested the physical removal yet. Maybe
Which we'll address next month in the next
Yeah.
meeting.
No, what?
Yeah.
All right.
For herbicide,
Here's number 8. And,
well, can I go back to, the only thing about number 7, actually, that seems like a high number to me, but that's a big bang for a buck. Because I mean, I think more people talked about the weeds this year than I've ever heard, you know, people talking in the whole town. Everybody knew about the damn weeds in the lake. You know what I mean? And now I do agree that, you know, we might be able to do it manually, just lakefront owners, you know what I mean? I know I had pretty good success with, well, I don't know that, I'll see this year. You know what I mean? But they didn't come back last year after I did it, so maybe that will work, but I don't think we totally rule out something, and I don't know, I know we can't put half of it in after that type of thing, but I think we gotta, you know, think about that more as we go on here, about how that's handled, or, you know what I mean, because we're gonna know pretty early, in the season.
I can speak to that further.
this is a pass-through cost. In addition, will be how much herbicide and at what cost? Again, is that a Solitude probably?
Well, he gave an estimate for that, which was manageable, but I think we need to
educate and, convince the town and the people in the watershed that this is the next step and the important thing to do, and to keep it away from the beach and so forth, so that it's viewed as a problem of the lake and a problem shared by everybody, as opposed to something that looks like it's helping individual landowners around the lake. In other words, I think we've got some discussion and salesmanship to
Yeah.
make people understand why this money is needs and why, how it's benefiting the whole town, before we jump to try to put it into the budget.
So this
We're
requires.
not ready. We're not ready for this. We have to look at Savannah's report first. So, we're not discarding it
Correct,
completely just from this budget.
good point. Out?
And there's an educational component to that too, that, you know,
Oh,
need to be
yes.
well prepared if we're gonna do this.
Yeah,
We
we're
have
gonna
to
do it.
notify people.
Help our
We
staff.
want it on our agenda to work on this year, yes.
Correct. Okay, and it did come up in the priorities, which we'll talk about in March. Stormwater-based management practices, again, optional, and yet we know. Well, I'm not gonna show my biases. Optional, $18,000. Obviously, the biggest nut in the optional task.
We have to do this.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
essential.
I think
This is
That's our
essential.
biggest problem. This is what I was talking about before. But quite frankly.
Now you can talk about it.
Yeah, I think the 18.5. And reading through what they're doing, you know, they put a lot of fluff in that. You know what I mean? I think we need to be much more specific as to what we're looking for that. You know, just by reading what they're talking about, they threw everything in there, everything. And we don't need everything. What we need is a focus on specific stuff, you know, specific ideas, best practices. You know what I mean? You know, they love to use some of these words. And I know there's a lot of fluff in that now, that 18.5 that they put there, because they don't know which way they're gonna go, and they don't even know what the problem is totally.
Nevertheless, I would like to see 18.5 put into the town, because
All I'm saying, I
With
agree.
negotiation.
Yeah, I think we are making sure
spend it
that
wisely.
we're running it, not them.
We can spend
As
it
far as what
wisely.
they're going to do.
But it is identified as the big issue right at the moment in terms of how phosphate is getting into our lake. And to ignore it is a mistake.
Agree.
And-
Fully.
And it is our most immediate problem.
Our most,
Immediate.
yes,
We have
on the
to,
watershed.
we have to look at what's coming into the lake
Mhm.
before we worry about taking it out.
One of the first lessons I learned from Lake Wormwood when I, 10 years ago, went out and met the gentleman, Roger, I can't remember his name. And they've done a magnificent job of cleaning up a full lake of cyanobacteria over now almost 4 decades. And it reminds me of James Carvell, it's the economy stupid. He said, it's not the lake, it's not the lakefront, it's the watershed stupid. We really have to focus on the watershed.
And it's not like it's a new thing. We've been studying
Yeah.
and had stormwater drains and requests to the selectmen on this for some time.
Okay, so we have 2 outs. We're gonna,
I know you did the 3,400 and the 1,900.
correct, and I'll provide this information to you, then we have to present it, yeah, Elmer, all right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so on February 17th,
Where's the watershed?
oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the watershed. The watershed management plan revisions, that proposal was, for 17,600, that's where Muffy recommended we plug it up to 20,000. Where are we in terms of, that committee and essentially, as Bob Portman did, TRC will write the watershed management plan. And that's at 17.6.
And again, if you amortize that over 30 years, it's a bargain. Let's face it. that thing was written in 1998. It's 28 years, my math isn't good, 28 years ago. If you amortize that money over 28 years, it's not a big nut to, so let's just amortize it going forward, even over 10 years, and if we don't update it over 10 years, I mean. Again, this for me is a total no-brainer. Henry?
I don't disagree with that, but I wonder if it's premature, whether we need to organize what we wanna do as a watershed management first. And don't we want to know what the result is of the $18,000 they're gonna spend investigating stormwater management before we go very far with what the watershed management plan changes might.
So is it sequential or simultaneous, is what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Can we simultaneously do this, or is it a sequential?
Well,
Do this-
and I can see that we might need 17,600, but it might be spread over a 24-month timeframe rather than
So part one, part two,
a 12-month timeframe.
thoughts?
No.
Watershed management plan revisions?
I personally don't think we should take 2 years to update the plan, personally. I think it should be non-sequential. I mean, Henry makes a valid point, but I think we need a report card on how what we've done has worked. I think people are asking for that. Does nutrient allocation work? Should we still be doing it? Should we still ask people that live in the watershed to comply with that? I think that's question number one. And then, as we all know from reading it, the focus back then was on septic systems, and I think now the focus is on stormwater runoff. So I think there's elements of this that are already known that we can start to shape.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree if we asked for them to help us quantify our success and where we're at, as opposed to draft a nice model watershed management plan that may not fit our watershed.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
Yeah,
We should.
on that, so if they recast this and we ask them, take a fine pencil to this and tell us coming in to take the data to keep our current plan, what we've done, so that we've got the groundwork for saying it's worked, or we know where we need to focus on change and that sort of thing. So it's more of starting with an analysis,
Yes.
helping us analyze.
That's always what I had in my head, but maybe it wasn't expressing that clearly. I think that
So-
is the starting point.
Does the commission want to include this in its presentation to 5 on February
I
7th?
would include it, but I'd ask them to change the number of
With
description.
the appropriate changes
Yeah.
that it's going to give us the depth of information we need
Right.
relative to nutrient allocation,
Right.
relative to stormwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I assume
Mary?
it will be a lower number.
Right,
Is this money July 1 to,
Yes.
yes,
so it's really like 18-month window we have if we ask for it. Now we can't start spending it till June anyway, right?
Until July
July
1st.
1, I mean,
July 1st, yeah.
so does that help Henry with the time frame
Well, but we need their help between now and then to get the
for
information.
everything? Yeah,
We have 18,000.
We do have
But
some
we have
money
two
left,
POs open.
but we have 2 POs, so we have about 11,000 that we perhaps could carry over.
You have two POs that will,
Oh,
11,000 will be taken away from the 18,000.
but we're not sure they did all that work.
You're right. We're
So we
still
have,
debating that.
we have a cushion of 11.
But that has to be spent this year, right? We can't carry it over.
Correct.
So we may have to pay them in advance or something like
Yeah.
that to use it to help us get that information going.
Mary, can they somehow combine number 8 along with our watershed management plan of 17.6? Is there a way to do that, or pay them per hour to try and do this? Cause I was reading their hourly rate. Is there a way to do it that way?
I can talk to them about that, but you're talking about sending an engineer out to do some evaluations of specific areas we define relative to stormwater drainage. Because we've already identified the top 10 stormwater drains, if you remember, they did that in their.
Yeah.
So let me see, because it may be different tasks and we may not be able to. But
Amy,
it's a
right?
good point.
Watershed is more of an
Mary?
analysis.
Mary?
Bob?
Yeah, I think the only way you can get them to work on an hourly basis is if they include a not to exceed figure.
Yes,
that
every
figure,
one,
yeah, that figure would then be
Yeah.
presented as a part of the budget.
every one of our proposals and contracts signed with TRC are, they cannot exceed.
Right.
We don't like change orders in this town, correct, Mr. Walker? Mr.
And
Walker
isn't
is
it,
talking about.
is it also true that they can't bill us until the service is rendered? So like we can't prepay something?
I will tell you, Beverly in finance has been wonderful in helping us
Yeah,
through that process, so there are ways to do it, right?
okay.
So.
Frank's on it, right?
This is, well, Frank's gonna be on it. This is the biggest nut of our budget. Frank,
Yeah.
Mark, myself will have to sit down and look at the entire budget. There's a couple little nuances here and there. I am sorry I made a mistake. I had violated the hard, effective, fast rule of a 2-hour meeting. Enough.
We're almost.
As Jim Santos would say. We've gotten through the bulk of everything. I felt standing committees, special projects and liaisons would not be addressed tonight. So I have a little cheat sheet that I will email you.
That's mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a little cheat sheet. I was looking for my cheat sheet.
Who's that?
That I'll email you, and I have to add Henry already. Of those, if you're interested, what do you want to volunteer for? And then we'll finalize standing committees versus special projects versus liaison roles. Okay? So,
Can I ask one quick question?
no. Over a rolling rock.
We're right. That was great to me. We're revising and we're gonna include this chart.
Yes.
But that will be revised along with, I know this chart will look great,
Yes,
but it says we own
correct. We will revise it.
We don't have any permits to worry about.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, there is a permit review? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I thought there was none.
Well, there's one.
Okay, entertain the motion.
Yeah, I came prepared with a motion, because you asked me to.
I asked
do
Mike.
that first. But knowing that the board of selectmen is not going to meet again until March, they changed the motion. But I'll read you the motion that I came
yeah.
from. But you'll see why they changed the motion.
Okay,
So I'm gonna make a motion to advise the board of selectmen to approve the permit submitted by Matthew
yeah,
Perisher on behalf of Camp Ostawama, 42 Route 87, Thornton, Connecticut, to repair the existing main dock and connecting dock, and to include an addition to the connecting dock structure for safety reasons. The addition of a small shed would be the responsibility of inland wetlands. That's on the permit.
That's on the
permit. Address that one.
it's not included.
So that's the motion, but like I said, knowing that there's a little addition on there, typically it would just be a repair for
Right.
what exists already. And then he threw that piece in, which is, I do have a picture of that. I don't know, it's hard to see and I don't.
Can LMAC approve the repairs as is and we revisit the dock addition later? Would they be open to that?
When does he have to get the dock built?
March 15th.
Be honest, I don't know how he's gonna do anything right now with all the snow
I
and
know,
everything else.
I know, but it's gonna happen.
But there's gonna be a shed built on the dock?
No, no, the shed is on land in wetlands in Canada. Savannah Kitchen has done it in administrative approval. As far as I think, I'm pretty sure. I did not realize he wanted to change. the
Yeah,
dock.
it's the connecting dock and the connecting, I mean, this thing is sprawling.
I know.
There's 7 docks in that.
I know.
Or put in those, fill in those corners, is that what he's doing?
Yes.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Pass
So
it around so people can see.
What is Nobby?
Mike, what is his last name?
yeah,
Yeah,
Uh,
and see.
yeah, I'll spell it for you.
Oh,
MC.
the furniture, I got it, I got it right.
Is this
Thank you.
No, that he wants to add in, fill in those corners so nobody falls down into it.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, is that something from a safety point of view?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He just doesn't want someone falling on.
It's just like that.
Okay, everybody take a look at that.
Yeah, just do it so kids don't get hurt. I mean, there's 80 kids that could be there.
Technically,
My grandson goes there.
Those are serious trip hazards. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
I hear Mike's motion now, understanding the safety issue. Is there a second to the motion? And Donna's got seconds tonight.
So I have a question myself here, is that if the board is not going to meet again until March, can we administratively approve this?
We could administratively approve it or emergency repair would be allowed. Without board of selectmen.
Yeah, I'd say for a camp of kids that you're trying to keep them from harming themselves, just do it.
Only use 2 months a year.
The board is not gonna oppose it.
Then we would remove the motion and Mike, you are recommending, you and Jim are recommending administrative.
Administrative approval. Right, and then we'll inform board secretary of your administrative approval. Okay, and I'll show those pictures. Yeah, and I'll also send the.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make sense?
Everybody agree on that at the
Yeah.
meeting? Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sorry.
You know. Off the table.
Motion's off the table.
Okay.
There is a motion, I would bet.
Do we need to vote?
Well,
It's a.
yeah.
No,
We need a motion, we need a motion for the administrative approval. Oh, you
Yeah. Oh, yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Motion for administrative approval of Camp Astawama dock repairs.
Emergency.
Second, and done.
Yeah, second and bottom, right?
Discussion done, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Opposed? No. Again, I'm sorry to make a mistake, I will work harder next year for the next meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second, Muffy, second, she's hungry. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
appreciate it, we're good to go.
We wanted to make a fair trial.